Happy Election Day.
He said election, not erection.
I finally got an election.
That was funny. You are very witty. Do you know someone texted me the other day and said, wow, I had no idea your husband was so witty. How do you feel about that?
I don't know how I feel about that. Who was it? Somebody that I know, or just somebody that you know?
It's somebody that we both know, but somebody that has become a subscriber and a fan on our social media pages, and someone who listens to our podcast. And they said, wow, you know, every time he opens his mouth and blurts out one of those one-liners, it's very witty. Who knew?
He's not smart enough to put his earphones on and talk into the mic, but he's pretty witty.
Do you know that we played that in my high school band? Every single year.
I'm just impressed that your high school had a band.
We played it every single year. And the little part that I just did, that was the piccolos, who always had the very back row of the marching band. And I always thought that was so wrong because the piccolo players always seemed to be the daintiest, little tiny, petite girls in our band. I don't know if that's the way it is in every band, but that's the way it was in ours. We had little Holly Eggers, who was like little tiny petite girl with little tiny petite fingers, and she played a little tiny petite piccolo. You know, because people start looking like the instruments they pick. Don't you think?
Yeah, I always found that in the band section, the piccolo section was a big deal.
You know what? That listener was right. You are pretty witty. You are pretty witty. Well, question. If you just looked at me, what instrument would you think that I played?
The sax. The sax.
You're right. I played the saxophone because the saxophone is a very, very sexy instrument.
Or I could see you playing a mean violin too.
I've always wanted to, but you know that about me because you're married to me. But the Dixie Chicks were always my favorite because I always loved the way they played the fiddle. They called theirs the fiddle. I still don't really know the difference between a fiddle and a violin.
I think that's the way you diddle it.
The way you diddle your fiddle?
Yeah, I think you diddle a fiddle and you play a violin.
Oh.
I'm totally just making that up, but it sounds right.
It does. So you should just say it with confidence and stick to it. Welcome to the Jana and Jason podcast. I'm Jana.
I'm Jason.
And today is election day. Does it feel like election day?
It's feeling more and more like election day because we have on our USA gear.
Right.
And
that's
I'm hoping
20 years
it says
old.
USA online instead
It does.
of...
You see?
Mine says
Wait, I'm
ASU.
Oh, really? Well, that's because you always do the mirror image. Jason has this weird thing. In fact, I was supposed to tell you that's really screwing everything up.
Should I flip it now?
Not now. Not in the middle. No. That will make it even worse. But that's really screwing up the editing process.
Oh.
Yes, Jason has this theory that when he looks into the computer, he doesn't like the way his image looks because it's not what he's used to seeing.
I like to see my mirror image.
It doesn't sound...
When I lift my right hand, I want to see my right hand show up on the screen instead of my left hand.
That's what I'm seeing. So when you lift up your left hand, you're actually seeing your right hand. Lift up your right hand. What are you seeing?
My right hand.
I don't understand it, whether it's your mirror image or your image.
My screen right now looks like what I see in the mirror.
How do you know? Because that's what you see.
Now I don't know what's. I don't know what's
I'm not making any sense.
I don't know what's getting recorded. That's the truth.
All I know is that when we go to edit Jason's video, we always have to flip his screen because whenever it looks like we're talking, he always looks like he's looking at the closet door. He always looks like he's looking the wrong way. Whenever he's like, Jana, what do you think?
Where's that closet?
He turns off screen. And I'm like, well, that doesn't look natural. So then we have to flip it again. So it's reverse psychology. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny. It's funny to somebody that's not having to edit.
To you, it's funny because
Maybe
you're
I should just
so
look
witty.
directly at the camera and not at you anymore. But it's just so natural to look at you because you're beautiful.
Oh, he saved it. He saved it. Woo! At any rate, today is election day, and today is the day that we all get to voice what our inner opinion is.
Tom Kirkman!
Even if sometimes we don't want to say it out loud because then it starts a diabolical debate, it seems.
Diabolic.
Yes. Did you just say Tom Kirkman?
Yes.
Is that from the Designated Survivor? Because Jason and I have been watching this.
That's the only news I've seen lately.
Netflix series. It is on Netflix, correct?
Yes.
About the Designated Survivor, which we didn't know this. But if there is a State of the Union address and all of the leaders of our country are all in one place, including all of the Supreme Court justices and the president, the vice president, everyone else, they do designate one survivor that they take into this tunnel, basically. And that way, if anything were to happen, then they have a designated survivor that can step up and become president and take care of the free world.
In very fine fashion.
And in this case, it's Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, and whenever that does happen, then just count on emergency after emergency after emergency happening.
Yes, because that's what's happened to Tom Kirkman.
Or maybe that's just because that's what we demand from a viewing audience.
Yeah, they have to keep it exciting. Otherwise, we don't want to binge watch the next 5 episodes. Because that's what happens on Sunday afternoon when we think, oh, today's our day off. Let's watch a little TV. And then we realize we haven't watched TV forever. So let's binge watch.
It's been 6.5 days since we've seen any television.
So let's sit here and watch 6
4 hours,
episodes. Yeah, that's what happens. But at any rate, it is election day, and people, I think I read this morning that there's already 100 million people that have cast their vote.
100 million!
And that is very rare, but mostly that's because people
are double voting.
No, don't start those rumors. It's because of the mail-in ballot, which that's what we did this year. We did the mail-in ballot.
We did it twice.
He says twice. He did one, and I did
But
one.
what's funny is we did get mail, and I continue to get calls from so many people about make sure you send in your ballot.
Yeah, which look like the original.
We get so many things in the mail.
Voting ballot. But it's not. You have to really read the fine print. Because if you read the very bottom, it'll say, this is brought to you by the blah, blah,
such
blah,
and
blah,
such
blah.
party.
And you're like, oh, I'm glad I didn't fill this one out.
The please vote by mail party. Please send this back. And I'm like, what is all this stuff? I thought I did this 3 weeks ago. I thought I did this 2 months ago. I thought I did this last week.
Pretty sneaky, sis, but you're not going to pull one over on us.
Not today, Copper.
Not on the shelfer helpers.
Not today, Satan.
It will be interesting though to really get a poll of what America is feeling and thinking, because the pollsters say one thing, you turn to one news channel, they say one thing, you turn to another news channel, it says another thing. But this is secret ballot.
You go to parties and people say one thing.
Right. And then outside their house, they have another flag that says another thing. So it'll be really interesting to see what people really put down
Behind closed doors.
when they have that pencil in hand and they can fill in the circles. However,
And nobody's looking.
I have a feeling, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I have a feeling that no matter which party wins or which candidate ends up getting elected, I have a feeling that this is going to be dragged out and there's going to be a lot of messiness.
Yeah, it's going to be a dirty diaper for America.
Yes, and to try to think about what's next. I do know that the White House has a fence around it. They put up a fence.
They finally built a wall.
They put up a fence around the White House last night.
That's what I saw.
Is that what you saw?
So, well, there's...
You can spin it any way you want, but I've never seen the White House have a fence built around it. So I'm not sure what that means, and it's up for interpretation. You're right. It could be a celebratory party. Who knows?
So there, and that's so the. But the thing is, just like we talk about all the time, it's optics. There's different optics for everything, and when you do something like this, there are going to be optics, crazy optics from so many different angles. And it's a tool that people can use in a toolbox. This is almost like throwing grenades out and saying, hey, anybody can pull the pin on this one.
The downtown DC, Washington, DC, the downtown areas mostly have been boarded up. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the owners of those businesses are thinking. But I do know that the fact is they have boarded up their businesses. Now, just from my own life experience,
Hurricane Vote Counting 2020.
You board up your windows. Here in Florida, we board up our windows. We board up our businesses when we want to protect, right? When we want to guard and keep something safe. So I'm not sure what they are expecting, and I'm not going to try to guess.
Those optics are pretty clear when you're boarding up a business. That is a protective measure because...
And they could be boarding it up no matter which side wins.
And that's the case because it has become a hot spot for everyone. And it's because I believe it's because of the negotiation tactics of the politicians and the lobbyists to separate themselves and separate their party affiliations as far as possible so they feel they have the room to come back to settle instead of being honest about
which is really unfortunate because when it really comes down to it, we're all humans and we're all Americans, and we all, in my opinion, I feel very, very grateful to live in such a wonderful, free country that I actually have the freedom to vote and I have the voice to put my opinion on an actual ballot. I feel so grateful and blessed, and so we're all on the same team, and that is where I sometimes think that maybe we've lost sight. We get so divided that we forget we're all connected and we are all really on the same team.
Yeah. Well,
we're all on the same side.
It's just so many people want to say that I have more rights and privilege than you, or I want to elevate myself. And we're not going to get political, but it's when you start trying to take advantage of your situation or someone else's situation so that you can separate so much further.
Well, instead of separate, we should really come together because we are all one. And that's as far as I'm going.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Thank you guys for joining us. We're in and we're out. That's the way the shelfers work, right?
In and out.
Woo! Happy election day. I did say election, right?
Yes.
All right. Life is fun with you. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great USA day.
Yep, we'll see you tomorrow.
USA, 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 USA.